Hey, good morning, Signature. Welcome to the sales meeting.
For October 13th,
Is it the 13th?
But it's not Friday.
which is good.
One of my favorite days of the year, actually, the 13th. It's my favorite number. Even on Friday, I don't even care. Anyway, welcome to the meeting. Thanks for joining us today. And we're going to start today, as we normally do, with our great lender, Shelley.
Thank you, Todd. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I just wanted to, first wanted to thank everyone. We actually had a successful month last month, and one of the things that we were successful at was condo closings. We had a 3% down payment condo closing, thanks to Patty and from the Bishop Group. And we had another 5% with thanks to the Barton Group, and that was Linda.
We almost got a whole house.
I had an investor condo purchase thanks to the Bala Group. I got a lot of groups on here.
I need to
That
get a
was
group.
through Mika. You do need to get a group.
We'll interview later, Brandon.
Can I join a group?
Yes, you can. Okay. Anyway, so I just wanted to make sure to recognize those, that the condo purchases, first of all. Also to let you know that there are some differences with condo purchases, and I've talked to a lot of agents who believe that you can't get financing, and I just wanted to throw out there that we obviously have an ability to do them at different down payment amounts, whether they're FHA or VA or conventional. And what I would encourage you to do is to reach out to one of your Prosperity Lending loan officers to find out whether your condo project or the project that your buyer is looking at is officially approvable. And what we will look at are three basic things, which is going to be your owner occupancy ratio, your litigations, if there's any litigations on the property, and then, believe it or not, the HOA delinquency. And then what they're looking at is anything delinquent over 60 days. If it's over 15% of the project, that becomes a red flag for conventional financing. So one thing that I threw out there as I was talking to Chris, you said 25% of the available units today, or homes available today, are actually condos,
Yeah.
right?
Surprising.
As a listing agent, I would encourage you as well, those HOA certs are good for what, 90 days? Is that enough
that's right.
time for getting on the market, or?
The HOA package is good for 90 days, so
90
it
days.
makes sense that the condo cert is also good for that.
Yeah, so I would encourage you, if you're a listing agent and wanting to open up the financing considerations, definitely reach out to us. We would be happy to run the information for you, to see whether it's available for FHA, VA financing, and then of course conventional. And even if you wanted to get that condo cert ordered, we can actually order it for you as a listing or for your seller, and then as long as we get the transaction for the buyer, we can then credit it or apply it to the buyer. One, to get it approved ahead of time, but also then to have the buyer pay for it at closing. So just wanted to throw that out there as far as condo financing. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out to your Prosperity Lending loan officer. And then also a reminder for Thursday at noon, we're going to do a Facebook Live. Join us as we talk about TRIO, which is our lease to own program, not ours, but it's Nevada Rural's lease to own program. You guys had asked about information on it, so we're going to bring it live to you. The director is actually going to jump online on Facebook Live. Look for the invite on our agent's signature page. That's all I got.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Hello. So I was kind of surprised when we went through this condo certification that the majority of all loans, I knew that conventional loans, FHA and VA loans were all federally backed and some security, right? So they have to go through an approval process. And so I figured that if I went into the condo sales and I saw that there had been previous FHA sales, that my FHA deal would be fine going through. But that's not necessarily true because their approval process could have been different.
Correct, yeah, so there are several FHA projects that have expired. And so just because they're on the list, if they're expired, they still need to go through like a spot approval process. And so I think that's one misunderstanding, as well as, I have a lot of agents that say, hey, this closed FHA, and I'm like, where did you find that information out? Oh, it was on the MLS. I'm like, well, I'm on the actual site for FHA, and it doesn't show that it's an FHA approved project. So some of that is data integrity as well, right? As the agents are putting that information into MLS as far as what the financing is considered. So I would definitely say reach out to an expert who does condo loans. We have been blessed to be able to have closed several of them, and every single one has been different in how we've gotten them approved.
But you did them all, that's the point.
But we did them all. We did. Got them through.
That's awesome.
Any other questions?
Yes, I just want to say this TRIO program is very timely, because I have an agent who sent me what looked like a very formal contract and said, I need your signature. And I'm like, well, this is obligating me to stuff, and I don't even know what this is. I had never heard of it. But obviously, she had a buyer that she'd picked up somewhere that it was introduced to them. So I think this was like maybe 2 weeks ago, very, very timely. And I plan on listening. It will be broadcast Facebook Live.
It will.
Because you need the information.
Yeah, we had it on through Nevada Rural, the down payment assistance provider, and we brought it up to the audience, and there was a lot of inquiries about it, and it is actually something that is new to Las Vegas. So they are in 4 other states. This is, I think they've only been here a year. Actually, they haven't really even closed anything. They've just gotten candidates in for to rent the home. So it's a great program if you
Well,
can.
can we tell them a little bit about it? It's
Yeah.
a lease option program, right?
It
Trio
is.
goes in and buys, go out, shop for a home, pick the
Correct.
house, the whole bit, so.
Yeah, it's not a specific home that is set up. It is actually a home that they desire to live
So if you're
in.
interested in that,
Oh, cool.
tomorrow?
Thursday. Thursday.
Oh, I just said Wednesday, I think. So it'll be Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Thursday at noon,
Thursday.
Facebook Live.
Wednesday, you have classes going.
I do have classes on Wednesday, yeah. I've got an open house class in Green Valley. It'll be a live class. Really what we're gonna talk about is all the new forms. Like there's 5 new forms that have come out from, Wendy talked about those last week. We're actually gonna get those in your hands, and so we can go through them, so you'll learn how to use them at your open houses. We'll talk about some of the new rules and how to handle those, and it'll be a quick hour of just how to do an open house successfully in today's market, and we're gonna move right from that into call night. So bring with you a list of people to call. If you've got a cell phone with a bunch of people's names in it, you can call those people. But that will just be designed for everyone to take a couple of hours, get on the phone, call somebody that you may not have called recently, and just try to drum up some business. So,
What a
yeah,
great
so that's
idea.
all next Wednesday.
That's a great concept. I mean,
That's weird.
all in groups. No, it's actually easier when other people are
Yeah.
doing it. So you can listen to people, you can hear it, and you get better at it.
Yeah, so the more people that are there, the better it will be, and that's it. You can hear other people, listen to how they say it, and then try it yourself.
So we had a couple of special things going on. We have our sales managers that are teaching classes in all the offices, and so those are being rolled out, and definitely on our Agents of Signature Facebook page. One of the great events that we had this last week was Bras for a Cause. And if you haven't seen the photos of Mike, you soon will, right? Mike was a good sport and got dressed up, and I don't want to say it was just a bra, it was a whole ensemble.
It was,
Ensemble.
just watch for the photos coming
I
to
mean,
your office soon.
Glitter, and it was interesting. But they raised over $23,000 for sending on vacation, so that was pretty amazing. We also had our first couple of graduates from the real estate school. And so new people getting into the business, and they were referred by our great agents. So if you have someone that's looking to get out there and get into real estate, your kids, your family members, put them all to work, I say. If you're staying in the house, get a real estate license. So if you do have someone, reach out to Patty and she'll get them signed up. And then we've had a lot of excitement with our coaching program.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of closings that have come from the group, and a lot of good business, a lot of good success. And so anything you guys want to add about the coaching program or highlight on?
It's a success.
Success.
No, it's actually been really good. So I'm coaching 5 people personally, one-on-one, and all of them are closing deals, and their production's up, and we're getting good feedback from them. So watch for some of that stuff being put out there. We're working on some other trainings that will be open for you guys too, to help introduce you to the coaching and the pod calls and stuff like that.
Very cool. So it's about that time of year, and every year in November we go on an NAR convention, and this year we were going to go to New Orleans. And I was excited because I have family in New Orleans, and so it was the first time I was going to see them in like 3 or 4 years. So we canceled that. And so we won't be going because of the COVID crisis, but
Chris, just Zoom call them.
no.
Seriously.
Nah.
Haven't you heard it?
I'll catch them in 5 or 6 years. So NAR is going to host a virtual convention, and so any Realtor member can take part for $200. For $200, you'll get 5 weeks. 5 weeks of exciting entertainment, great classes, committee meetings, and just all around good stuff. So if you
5 weeks?
5 weeks. It used to be 4 days, and now it's 5 weeks.
So is it like a couple of hours?
I don't know, it's like 20 minutes each day, I think. It's crazy, but they decided that they were going to take all the meetings for everyone's schedule and just throw them out over 5 weeks. So, but if you want to, the main part for Realtor members is going to be November 16th through the 18th. So if you don't want to do the other 4.5 weeks, you can definitely do those 3 days. The other thing I was going to share is that the state convention has opened up registration. Did you guys all register?
I actually clicked on the link today and it's dead. You
Really?
might want to talk, yeah.
Okay, we'll
You
fix
might want to
that.
talk to the president.
It's not. I did it the other day.
So here's my question, so I registered.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Oh,
Janet.
I guess it works.
And then I have
User
received
error.
from Teresa this, I can't remember what it's called, starts with a W.
It's an app.
W9.
It's an app, but I don't want it on my phone. I'm not gonna watch the convention on my phone. There's just no way. It's gonna be on my big screen, computer screen. But I can't get it to download onto my, is it just for
You know-
phones?
Yes.
Yeah, so you go download the app, and what it does is it gives you all of the speakers, all of the different sessions. There's a chat feature, so you can chat with other participants.
Oh, it's just like if you were
At the
at the
conference.
national convention.
I tried
that
to
we
make it
get
as
our
fun as
schedule
possible.
on our phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
So to be clear on the state convention, we wanted to be cognizant of everyone's time. So it's October 27th through the 29th. It's 3 hours a day, and it's from 9 to 12. We're gonna have a few breaks. I even have commercials that are gonna be played during it. I mean, it's gonna be cool, right? And you may see my face once or twice. I apologize for that. It was a requirement.
Camera hog.
You paid for all
But
this.
we have major national speakers that are going to be involved. We have major political speakers that are going to be involved. But it's going to be a great state convention. And the best part, it's free.
Can you announce one of them? Because it's now on the app.
Yeah. So we have Tom and Mike Ferry that are going to be presenting together about, what they see as coaches happening in our world right now in real estate, kind of like their go forward and what they've done to, cope with it and keep their coaching services going forward. We have a number of motivational speakers that are going to be on there. It's been rumored that the governor will make an appearance. We have the Secretary of State that's going to talk about the elections. We have 2 major political commentators that are going to kind of digest the real estate political climate and kind of give us some go-forward ideas. We're going to get to meet all the local presidents, all the local executives, talk about what's going on across the state in real estate. And all good stuff.
I feel like I've already been to the convention, so
Yeah.
I may not need to attend.
I know, right? I put you like right there. You can feel the breeze of Lake Tahoe going past your
There's
face.
no excuse though, it's free.
It's free.
It's free.
It's great information.
It's free 99.
$3.99,
Free 99.
$3.99.
the best.
All right, so, as always with our Pulpery meeting, we get a number of topics that come up from our Facebook, that come from the brokers dealing with agent issues and things like that. And so we've got a number of them here that we thought it would be great to expand on. And so the first one is one that we have happen all the time. What's the best course of action when another agent won't respond? Meaning they won't reply to my emails, I have an issue in the transaction and I can't get them to participate. So what do you guys, with your years and years and years and vast years, many, many years of knowledge, suggest that we should do?
I think he is calling us old. Well, there's a number of things you can do. You can start with a little subtle email the agent saying, I've tried to contact you 5 times, you've not responded.
That goes over
Go
well.
through the whole thing, but CC their broker. And then you're gonna say to me, oh, but they are the broker. You can pick up the phone, you have permission to call their broker. I get phone calls all the time from agents about agents in my office. So you can just escalate it right on up. And I had an agent one time who went a little overboard, no response, no anything, no text response, no email, no answering the phone, and said, I've been trying to contact you for 10 days. I've texted you, I've emailed you, I've called you. If I don't hear from you in the next 24 hours, I'm filing a complaint with the real estate division. Oh, they called her right away.
Threats work.
Threats work, yeah, threaten them up. So the point is, I think, a little bit, to your point, Janet, copy in their broker, because give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe the agent's out of town or they don't know what's going on. Todd, what do you think? I mean, you've been dealing with this before.
Well, I like to use the request number 2 in the subject line, request number 3, request number 4.
38.
But I'm the same as Janet. If I've reached out 2 times and I've got no response, whether it be email or text, I just go to the broker. I mean, I have an obligation to a client to get answers to the situation, and if the other agent doesn't want to participate, I just have to go to their broker. And if it is the broker, okay, I just start blowing their phone up. I mean, I'll text and email multiple times an hour until they respond to me.
Call you in 20 minutes. Call you in 20 minutes.
But yeah, back in the short sale days when the bank wouldn't respond, what'd you do? Like I on many occasions had more than 10 agents call the same number at the same time, so we could clog their phone up, and they would have to answer one of our calls,
Yeah.
right? So you just have to get creative. I mean, I've hunted people. No, I haven't really hunted people down.
But to your point, your whole thing is that you owe a duty to your client to be as aggressive as possible about their offer.
Yeah, and if they're not responding, get aggressive. I mean, if you're in my
Not violent. He didn't say violence.
I said aggressive. Well, I said
Here's the thing though, be
be professional.
if you text them 5 minutes ago and they haven't responded, it doesn't mean they're not responding.
Yeah.
So let's not go overboard there. But if you're truly not getting that, the other thing is try a different mode of communication. If you're sending them emails and they're not answering, try calling them.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't call enough, I don't think, so.
Yeah, that's true.
And then if you're truly not getting a response, then yes, escalate.
So my threshold is 24 hours. If I email or text them at 8 o'clock in the morning, if by the next day, if they haven't answered, I get a little more aggressive the next day. So yeah, I agree, the 5-10 minute, I mean, I have people come out, well, I texted them 10 minutes ago, they haven't responded.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
unfair to everybody.
Yeah, that's not realistic at all.
So one of the things I notice on this is a lot of people wait until it is an emergency to get aggressive about the follow-up, right? They have this issue and they let 3 or 4 or 5 days go by, and now they're facing their contingency removal, and now they're like, well, what do I do? And so don't let it be that piece.
Yeah, I mean, the advice is you get down to the end of the contingency, the only advice we can give you if you have no communication is cancel.
Yeah.
Like, you have to protect your client's earnest money at that point, and that's not what your client wants done. That's why you have a duty to be aggressive long before the contingency comes up.
Yeah, you know when
Because-
the contingency's ending before
Yeah.
it's here, so a day or two before, start working on it, not
Yeah,
10
not
minutes.
the day, not
And
the day.
you want to document these, right? You want to put in writing that you're making these phone calls, you're sending your emails and texts. You want to take that documentation, put it in your file, so that down the road when there's a complaint because no one responded, you have a defense at the real estate division or at the board that you did your job, like Janet said, that you actually put these things to the broker, and they are the broker, and that's why they have so many problems.
Well, and here's the other thing too, sometimes you just have to be patient, you can't expect a response in 30 minutes, particularly I've discovered in this age of Zoom, because if I'm supposed to be in a Zoom meeting, I'm the only one at the table that doesn't have their phone out.
Even
I
today, she's
partic-
the only one.
I participate, I'm where I'm supposed to be. But I got a nasty text from one of my agents, one morning at 7 o'clock, and it said, "I sent you commission orders to sign and you have not signed them. Please sign them immediately." And I went, "What?" So I pulled up my phone, and this agent had texted me, or said, "I sent you commission orders to sign, check your email," at 9:01 PM. Well, it just so happened that night I crawled in bed about 8:45, so I didn't see it till the next
See,
morning.
I read that as, I sent you some commission instructions last night, would you please take a minute to sign them when you get a chance?
Well, no, it wasn't that.
It's like, that's.
No?
But, you know,
Not how it came across.
if you text me after 9 o'clock and want something signed, or email me after 9 o'clock, I'm just personally, for me, you're not getting a response. But I may respond to you at 6 o'clock in the morning when I'm sitting at the kitchen island drinking coffee and going through my phone.
Make sense? So text, phone, and email to multiple contact numbers, because in the MLS, they have contact info. In your Las Vegas Realtor site, they have contact info, so try more than one. And let's say worst case scenario, no one answers their phone because their internet got shut off, right? Or their office lights are not in business. You could always get in your car and drive to their office and wait for them. I've done that.
Like
If their
they're gonna
lights
show up
are, if
to
their
your
lights are off, they're not gonna.
Well, but they may show up for mail, right? I've gone to an agent's office and had a good reason. My client's offer needed a response, and I went over and I sat in their waiting room until the agent showed up. And it's hard to get rid of me, right? And so if I'm sitting there, they've got to address it, or their office staff is trying to get them to address it. And so really, how impactful can you be? As impactful as you want. Let's go to a different point of this question. I'm now in a situation where I have due diligence that's coming up, and I've sent over a repair request and I can't get my answer, and you touched on it earlier, that I only have so many options of what to do. I've given you the benefit of the doubt as the other agent to respond to us. I've sent you emails and texts, and now I have to take action. And so what do you do as an agent? What are your only options that you have available,
You educate your client.
right?
You basically say, you run the risk of losing your earnest money, if you go past this and you want to cancel later, or you cancel it now and you protect your earnest money, or you move forward and you accept the property as is.
So based on the property's issues, like if you know that, let's say for sake of conversation, it's the batteries in the smoke detector, it's trimming the trees off the house, we're talking about minor issues, and you're now at that point, you call your client up and explain all the things that have happened, and you show them all the work that you've done to get the agent to respond, and that you sat in their office and there was no office, and you have the client make the decision of do they want to risk their money, and you get that in writing from your client. Yeah, I'm willing to move forward, or no, I'm not.
Yeah, so that's what I want to point out is, you want to have this phone conversation, right? You want it face-to-face or phone or Zoom or however you can get with your client and in front of your client. But follow that up with an email and say, hey, just want to be clear, based on our Zoom call, based on our phone call, these are the options, number one, number two, number three, and we need to make a decision by this time so that we can execute on this. What do you want to do? So, I mean, there is the option of moving past the repair request and just knowing that you're going to get the house the way that it was.
Yeah.
Right, that's an option, so.
Well, and then follow that up with in writing, so that you cover yourself, that you had that conversation and they're electing to move forward. The other thing is, just, I forget where I was going with it, but
You're probably going to the other side, so
Yeah.
let's say it's $7,000 in repairs that need to be done, right, for the sake of conversation. And now you're at the intersection of, my client's gonna lose their earnest money because there's no way they can do $7,000, and if the seller's not gonna participate. So it's been my practice, and Janet, you'll remember this, Todd, you were on the forms committee, and so was Brandon. When we wrote the new contract, it requires action from the buyer, right? So the seller has no outs in the contract, but requires that the buyer act on each of these items. And so we were taught by the attorney to write a two-pronged addendum. This seller agrees to extend buyer's due diligence by 7 days to allow time to do additional inspections or whatever else. If seller does not respond to this email by 5 p.m. tonight, this shall serve as buyer's notice of cancellation.
This addendum.
Yep.
This is on an addendum.
This is on an addendum.
But that's where I was going to. The fact of the matter is that seller is not obligated to respond to your thing.
Yep.
If they don't respond, that is the response. They're not doing it.
Exactly.
Now, that doesn't give you as an agent the ability to not present that to your client, and I would always present it to them and get a response on our side to cover yourself, to show that you did present it and they're electing not to move forward.
And I write it in there, like in parentheses, because agent has not responded to our many requests, we're doing this only to protect buyer's earnest money.
Right.
And I say that, I mean, it's
Yeah,
not.
buyer still wants to proceed based on seller's response, right? So yeah, I've written that in addendums, but yeah, you can write the addendum, there's two sections to it. One is extend due diligence to allow time, blah, 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 whatever that looks like, or with no response by this date or this time, this is official notification, seller or buyer's canceling the
If
contract.
you haven't done that before, get with the broker to help
Yeah.
you.
But, and I do remember when the previous attorney came up with that form that, and he first introduced it to us, he said, and no response is a response.
Yeah.
So you've got to deal with that.
Now, I want to remind people
Well,
too.
let me be clear about something though,
Yeah.
because this is frustrating for me, right? I get that the no response is a response, but based on the code of ethics, as agents, we have a responsibility to respond, even if it's not our client responding in writing, we have a obligation to respond with a phone call, a text,
Treat all
that
people
just
fairly.
says,
Yeah.
hey, my seller has elected not to respond.
Yeah.
Just, that's our communication between agents, that's the
Yeah.
professionalism of our industry, and it's based on the code of ethics. So even if your seller says, gets all mad and doesn't gonna respond, and they can cancel if they want, all those great things we've ever heard sellers say,
Yep.
you still, as an agent, have an obligation to pick up the phone, text, call, email, and just say, had a communication with my seller, they will not be responding. It's
enough.
that simple, and that way the buy side can then make plans based on that response.
The preamble to our code of ethics is the golden rule, treat others how you'd want to be treated, and I doubt any of us would want to be treated with no response, right?
Correct.
To clarify as well, the inspection agreement is not an addendum, right? It's an agreement of terms, and the reason why we
It's
created
a request.
It's a
It says-
request.
It says,
yeah.
right, it's a request.
And so
not an addendum.
what I'm doing is I'm putting in writing what we all want to have happen, and your response and my rebuttal. And if that doesn't work, I can get another one or a third one, which hopefully never happens to you. But the idea behind it is that we're gonna get all the repairs already agreed upon, and then we're gonna commemorate that into an addendum, right? Commemorate? Is that the right word?
It's not.
Commemorate's like coins, right? I mean, a
Yeah.
commemorative coin.
It has something to do with money.
I'm gonna put it into an addendum that's gonna actually be signed that has the final outcome of whether I'm doing a credit for closing costs or whatever it is. But
So,
Can I just,
yeah, can we, because some lender issues
Yes.
there.
Yeah, I was
Shelley's
gonna
about to
say-
point out.
we're not supposed to tell her about this, okay?
exactly, like, keep that part, the request side of it, we have seen agents send that in to us, and then the follow-up is this addendum because of the repair items. And the hard part as a lender is sometimes you can't unsee things, right? And
Yeah.
so an underwriter wants
Like
to
Mike.
see.
Yeah.
Right.
Mike with his clothes off, I can't see it, it's still there.
So always, just know that as a lender, we do not need to see your request for repairs, whatever they may be. And if it is the fact that they are going to provide some seller contribution because of the repairs, please do not add in lieu of repairs, the seller is going to provide this, because it's still pointing the arrow back to see this repair list.
I want to clarify that though too, so everyone understands, that's why we have an appraisal that can have inspection items. If it's an item that would affect the loan or its terms, it will come up in the appraisal. So the lender is being protected from all of those items that that matter to them. We're talking about cosmetic items or condition items that only make sense to us. And so that's why it's really not an issue that they do or don't see that. Because we're already deciding that you don't like the way the wall is chipped or you don't like the way the fan doesn't work. The lender doesn't care on that. They just care if the AC is working or the furnace is working.
Can't.
They may care about it when it's pointed out.
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
Now all of a
That's
sudden,
right.
now it needs to be fixed.
I had one where the appraiser noted hall bath toilet doesn't work. And I'm like, how did he know?
Tried
He had
it.
to
He
go.
used it. He had to go.
So let me just say this, the repair request, look at it as a worksheet.
Yeah.
This is a worksheet between the buyer and the seller where they can figure out what they are, what they want repaired, and then what they're willing to repair. And my rule of thumb, if there's money involved, if the seller comes back and says, I see all these things you want repaired, I'll give you $1,000 and go away. You need an addendum because the $1,000 is credited towards the buyer's closing costs, right? That's how
Yep.
it's written. And then that goes over to escrow and goes to the other agent and goes to the lender because that changes, an addendum changes the contract.
It does.
Alters the contract. A repair request does not.
So there's another item that goes to reasonable skill and care, right? We are practitioners that should understand our job and our role and our responsibility. And I'm seeing these requests that say fix all items on home inspection summary. The only problem with that is many times a home inspector will note safety or just notice issues
Yeah.
that are like, there's nothing wrong. I'm just letting you know that this occurred. And when you put in that in the inspection repair notice, you're asking them to address or do something with all of that. And so it's our responsibility to actually take the report, go to our buyer and say, what items are important to you? Which ones do you want? Well, I don't know.
Well, not only what items do you want, but how do you want it repaired?
Exactly.
Like, what's going to be sufficient for your needs? Because, you know, I may repair it differently than how Brandon will repair it, or differently than how you repair it, but, so if you're not.
I'm ordering out.
It might work, it might work if you repair it.
So you've got to be specific in the repair request to say what you want done.
Yeah.
Right? I see so many repair requests come over and go, oh, the thermostat didn't turn on. Okay, I see that. Do you want me just to turn it on, or do you want me to make sure it runs the air conditioning?
Yeah.
Like, be specific.
remove
enough.
it.
All right, just take it out.
I don't need it.
So
It doesn't work anyway.
I think it's important, look, everyone's yelling at their phone right now because they're saying, what if they don't do the repairs? We don't have an addendum, the repairs agreed upon are not a part of the contract.
Yep.
We're now down to close of escrow, they haven't done the repairs. Now what do? Does the buyer have a right to hold up the close of escrow because the seller didn't do the repairs?
So that's a great point, because what we see many times is we're talking about smaller amounts of money, right? And so let me ask you, if I knew that in writing, the seller has agreed in writing because of the documents to make a repair, and by the way, that's why the request is signed, because once it's signed, if you read the verbiage, it's a binding agreement.
It's a contract.
It's a contract,
On
and it
its
actually
own.
states that the seller will make repairs with licensed contractors,
Yeah.
not their Uncle Eddie, who's a really nice guy and handy, right? Licensed contractors.
Uncle Eddie. I don't know
And
why
they'll
you're so
provide
mad.
proof of completion, so that's a binding agreement. I could go to court with that agreement, no one wants to go to court, but I could take it and say, Brandon didn't do his repairs as my seller, I'm going to file a judgment against him and get my attorney to take it to small claims court or myself.
Right.
Now, the point is that that doesn't get me the house if I do that before. And so a lot of times on the walkthrough, it asks you that question. have all repairs been completed? And if not, we have another document that we created recently, which is the holdback. You can hold back an amount of money so that the inspector or repair person can get that money from escrow without the seller touching it. So you can do all of those options.
Okay, but if the seller won't agree to hold back,
Yep.
they haven't repaired,
Yep.
can you hold up the closing?
Can you
Well,
not
you
close on time?
cannot do anything.
Can
The
the
buyer
buyer
could,
hold up the closing?
right? And that's the question. Why would a buyer want to hold up their closing, really?
No, they can't hold up the closing.
The buyer
From my
can.
perspective
They really
is they
can't.
cannot.
The buyer can
the
refuse to
close of
close at
that-
any point.
Right.
They can, but they would default on the contract.
They absolutely would, but
And
they
they
can
would not
refuse
get
to do
their
it.
home at that point.
Yep.
So this is, our job as agents is to make sure that our clients get what they want.
Yes.
And it's not to lose their EMD, it's to close on a home that they love.
Well, you've had that client that doesn't really care. They're nuts.
But that
Absolutely.
buyer withholds, doesn't go in and close, they run the risk of losing
They
their
absolutely
EMD.
They do, and not getting an extension
Yep.
and losing the house. So, understand that the repair request, as Chris has pointed out, is a contract. It's signed by both parties. It's an agreement. It's not enforceable through the RPA. It's only enforceable in small claims court if for some reason the seller didn't do the repairs. That's so do not advise your buyer to, let's just hold up closing. There was a time, how the contract was written years ago, where that was a possibility. So if you're out there going, well, back in the day when, look, it's changed,
It has.
right? The contract has changed. It's all on the buyer nowadays. And so you got to catch up with the times and understand that if there's a problem with the repair request, you have to deal with that outside of the contract saying the close date is.
And to
this date.
clarify one other thing on that, because the agreement is signed, even if the deal closed, it's still binding, right?
Yeah,
So that's why you
absolutely.
can close.
Yeah.
But the question is, everyone says, well, now the seller's gone with their money, right? And so that's why I would become extremely aggressive in follow-up during this closing process of, we can make this really easy or we can make this really difficult, right? We need to get this done. We need a plan in place to get it done for everyone's sake. Because who wants to end up in litigation later? It just makes no sense.
Well, it's so far away nowadays that they
crazy.
lived there for 2 years before they'd even see the courthouse.
So we have a follow-up question that actually came a couple of days later, and it says, my seller wants to do the repairs themselves. Can a seller do repairs themselves?
Yes,
Okay? Anyone else?
they can only do repairs.
I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way.
Well, let me just say.
I'm just curious. I'm curious on
Like
perspective.
you pointed out, it said the repair request says it's by a licensed contractor, but if the seller's response is
Yep.
items 1, 2, 3, 7, and 13 are gonna be done by the homeowner, and all the other ones up to 36 are gonna be done by that's fine. That's
As long
what's
as they both
agreed
agree,
upon.
right?
It's the
Long as
classification
both
of a
sides.
repair, right? Something in my home that just needs to be addressed, like a light bulb or a battery or something
Licensed
small.
electrician.
Well, yeah, I need a licensed electrician that's, not just a journeyman. Those things can be addressed, but here's what's funny, the contractors board has requirements on that. The contractors board says even you as a homeowner cannot do more than $10,000 in personal repairs to your home, or you're in violation of contractor
And
status.
how much it costs to replace a hot water heater in that room?
About
Yeah, I
$9,500.
mean, you better not touch that, because
Right.
you're gonna be over the limit.
So let me ask this question, Shelley, because this comes up a lot. So my buyer has an FHA loan. We have gotten 3% closing costs from the seller, and now there are some things that really, really need to be repaired. And the seller says, well, I don't have the money to fix them, but I'll just give you $1,000 at close of escrow to get them done yourself. Well, the seller's already given the max 3%, so how would that work? What happens?
So for FHA, it's actually 6%, but in those cases, I mean, they can't really contribute. If we've exceeded seller,
In those cases, call your lender.
Yeah.
Right, because as you get closer to the end of the
I did.
contract,
They can lower the purchase price.
there's lots of
they
options.
could.
But as you get closer to the end of the contract, there's been more concessions made and more concessions for the original contract, sorry.
They can throw in the fridge.
And so you're gonna have to come up with a way to resolve it. But
Yeah.
yeah, as you get closer then, talk to the lender because things have changed over the last 30 to 45 days and you just don't really know where that's at.
yeah, I would say we've gotten, sorry.
No, you're
we've
good, go
gotten
ahead.
creative in, when we do have a surplus, all closing costs are paid for. We're paying their upfront mortgage insurance premium, we're paying 12 months of HOA dues, we're paying a quarter of taxes. There's
Oh, okay.
different ways so that there's no money being left on the table for the client.
So the other question that was on here was, can my buyer do their own home inspection without a home inspector? And so that's actually a very interesting question, because I, as a buyer, by the law, can go on and do anything I want to look at a property, right? I can go in and check it out. I can stand in the backyard and see how the wind feels against my skin. I mean, all of those things are allowable.
Can I fly my drone over the roof to look at the roof?
As long as you don't impact the property or damage it, you can, it says in the contract, you can do whatever inspection the buyer deems necessary. However, if you ask for repairs, the inspection must have been done by a licensed home inspector or contractor. And so you can do all the inspections you want, but you ain't gonna get any money unless it's done by a licensed
You can
professional.
always ask for repair.
You can always ask.
Right.
But it says in the contract, it actually says in writing, that to get repairs and to prove it, it needs to be by a licensed professional. Now, what you're gonna say is, I go in and I check it out and I have a real problem with the way the electrical looks, so I call a contractor, I have him come out and address it, and he gives me a report. Now I
Because
fulfilled
you're
that
supposed to
obligation.
submit the report along
Yes.
with your request.
Yes. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, crazy though, because it's in the writing.
Yeah, so let me just address, can a buyer do the inspection themselves? Please never offer that.
Yeah,
Please
okay,
never
great.
ask a buyer to do the inspection. We want a professional licensed inspector to go into a property and do an inspection for your buyer.
Worst thing in the world is that my buyer's a contractor.
Oh, man.
I had a guy that was a contractor.
That's when the list is like 50 long, right?
No, it's even worse. He doesn't ask for anything.
zoning.
Yeah, he went in and checked a water box and said, oh, this looks great, no problems at all. He closes on the house, and of course we had a release and in writing, because he was a 30-year contractor, come in full of mold. Like, the plumber came in and said, I don't know how anybody could have accepted this, right? And the guy's standing right behind him, I don't know either, you know?
What about waiving the inspection? Is that, I'm seeing that more often.
Yeah, you know, the point is, a buyer can decide whatever they want to do, but if they do crazy things like that, we're the ones with the liability, so you've got to get a release. Like you said before, we've got to put it in writing that this isn't really a good idea, and here are the reasons why not, but it's your home, your money, your choice. And so it never works out. I waived my home inspection, I waived my home warranty.
Ooh, you don't have no E&O, you've got to pay the deductible.
It's just not a good idea. All right, well, we'll move on to a couple of others on here. So we've been asked about the eviction order. As everyone knows, the governor's eviction order expires at midnight on October 14th.
Yes.
Tomorrow. Dun, dun,
So
dun.
I answered this question on Facebook, somebody posted it, and I put in December 31st, because that's the date the CDC has
Yep.
given, and my gut feeling is that A, either that's gonna override what the governor has said, or B, the governor's gonna go right along with what the CDC has said, so I think it's the end of the year, right?
So the problem is going to be, you know, you have state law, local government, and you have federal law, right? And so for federal law to take effect, I'd have to be in federal court, right? But if a tenant says, the Center for Disease Control says that I should not be allowed to be evicted from my home, what do you think is going to happen if they evict me? Do you think that won't end in a lawsuit? And I think what has happened here is the federal government has overreached a little bit into the state government, and it kind of gives the governor an out, because whether he does extend it or he doesn't, they still have the same protections in a way because of the CDC guideline. Now, could the CDC roll it back? They absolutely could, and if the majority of states lifted their eviction moratorium, be in a different place.
So my understanding with the CDC is they have to prove a few things
They do.
before they can be safe and not be evicted.
Same with our eviction proceedings right now. They still have to come in and prove that there's some items that you're in default of, but I don't know. I think it could go either way. I think the governor could end up extending to December.
I agree.
Stay tuned, find out tomorrow.
Either way, you're not gonna see evictions.
It's
till
just,
after
it's
December.
crazy, right? I mean, every homeowner out there that has a rental,
It is.
you know, it's just, there's no protection for the homeowner, there's only protection for the renters, and I will say this, I think the state of Nevada is very tenant prone, right? They protect the tenant way over.
More and more now.
The homeowner.
So the end of the story is that still, right now, I have the ability to negotiate with my tenant for their benefit. And so a lot of people have been holding out, waiting for the eviction moratorium to lift, and now they're 6 months in arrears on rents in some cases. And so I think now we've gotten to a place where there's no choice anymore, but for the owner and the tenant to sit down and hopefully work out resolution, for not only for the benefit of the owner getting some income back in, but imagine the property, right? Now, here's what I see as a problem. I've never seen so many new cars in the marketplace as I've seen right now. So are my tenants keeping this rent and buying new vehicles and things like that? You know, because we've
Some are.
seen people do that. And so I think the whole point is that to get the parties together. and help them
You're going to have to negotiate with
Yeah.
them anyway, because there's a mediation requirement now as well. So you're not just gonna be able to evict people, just to evict them because they.
Well, and I also look at the, the big picture is what happens if the eviction notice, what if it expires tomorrow? How many people are gonna be officially evicted from their homes?
It's gonna take some
And
time.
it can't, I mean, that's just not healthy for our economy, that's not healthy for the morale of the city and this, I mean, tenants and landlords need to get together and figure out something that makes sense.
The
for
good
both
property
parties.
managers have already been doing it.
Yep.
Good.
And so I think, we're gonna be okay through it, but I think that we're not gonna be able to do evictions till the end of the year anyway.
I agree. And so one of the things that came off of this as a conversation point on Facebook was one of our agents posted that there's a major rental scam that they came across on someone else's listing where the listing was available, it's a vacant home, and it was listed on Craigslist for rent. And they had a client that called in about it and found out, and it's listed below market rents on a property that literally is not for rent at all. And so I think the point is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, that it's always the reason why you contact a realtor to help you, because if they hadn't contacted their realtor, they could have been scammed. And I think that there's a lot of fraud out in the marketplace because of the pandemic and everything that's happening. So be very cognizant and verify things before you respond on things.
Well, I mean, people are being scammed every day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just something that's happening. I think if you're an agent that has a vacant listing, I think that you should put in your calendar to check Craigslist once a week to find out if your house is for rent, because they're picking every vacant house out there and trying to get $1,000.
You can set alerts on Google, right?
You
for
set
your property.
Google alerts and they'll come up, but you also, like Todd said, just go into the search, put in the address, because you can find those ads, and they're going to target your listings.
Yeah,
because
And
it's
they will
vacant.
actually change the locks on your listings.
Yes.
And actually give them keys and collect the money, and people will move into those.
Yep, it's happened time and
It's
time
happened.
again.
So is that just on the rise all of a sudden, or is it? 'Cause I
Well, it's
mean-
always been prevalent, but
Yeah.
now we have such a weird market that,
Everybody's-
things are just crazy, and now it's even
Everyone's
worse.
out of work, so they're trying to find work.
And it's hard, and it's getting harder to find a rental.
Yeah.
And so now they're looking at Craigslist, they find something that's easy, and
It is easy. It's easy to lose your money.
So there was a comment on there about, a lot of investors now coming into the market wanting to buy properties to Airbnb them, right? And so agents were, asking for help on agents of signature. Does anyone know anything about those? Have you done them? I definitely have stated them. I mean, I loved the Airbnb experience. It was really cool. But just want to remind everybody that in the city of Las Vegas and the county, you can't do Airbnbs for short-term rentals less than 3 months. And in the city of Henderson, they're allowed, but if your HOA doesn't allow it, you can't do it. And so that means you'd have to find a property in Henderson without an HOA, and then you'd have a property there.
And it has to be X amount of miles away from
Yep.
the other one. So,
Yep.
so if you're an agent that's gonna represent somebody buying Airbnbs, you have a lot of work to do. And it's on you, I promise. If they're, some reason buy a property that they find out later doesn't fit into the Airbnb scenario,
coming back.
I promise you, they're gonna come knocking on your door. So you have a lot of work to do, find out what you can and can't do with Airbnbs. We had one out in the Northwest. The people came in from San Francisco, they bought the property. Their plan was to rent it out. It wasn't an Airbnb at the time. They rented it for a year, the people moved out, they went back in and refurbished it and decided to Airbnb it. And they started to Airbnb it and found out that they couldn't. The HOA actually sent them a notice, and then, so we had to sell the property. Luckily for us, their intention was to rent it, which was totally legal, but then they found out they couldn't Airbnb, and so they decided to sell it.
So you mentioned it, City of Henderson, when they did it, they created income from it, from the permitting of those Airbnbs. And so every single municipality has a department that you can call, planning or zoning, and you can actually physically call them and say, does this property qualify for a short-term rental? I would call anonymously in case it doesn't and you don't want to damage it. But you can call and verify that, and they will literally give you all the information you need if it does, and tell you how the permitting process works, how you go through it. And you can make your offer contingent upon the property qualifying for those things. And that's why it's so important that you have, like you said, all of those steps,
Yeah.
because it's a big liability.
Do your homework.
Do your homework. So last one on the questions that we have, we're running out of time for those, was chain of addendums, right? So I write an offer, and the other agent should be sending me a counter offer, not an addendum, right? And when they send me a counter offer, it should be counter number one.
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 Oh, one.
Yeah.
You're an offer.
Here's the problem.
Here's the problem. Glad we got you here.
So then I get counter
I'm gonna
number
learn
one.
something today.
Right?
Something.
And in the counter, I'm only addressing the things I'm not accepting, right? I don't need to readdress things that have already been agreed upon. I'm only countering because actually I'm rejecting your offer and saying I'm rejecting it based on these things, and here they are. And then when you get counter number two, I'm only addressing what I'm not accepting, right?
I always say, I'm accepting your offer, except for these things.
Right, but
These are all good.
every counter is a rejection. It is, because at that point I've rejected the offer and they could walk.
Sure.
And we could not come together, but you're right, it's only the items.
So you submit the offer to Todd, Todd counters, do you counter back to him, or does he?
Yes.
You do an addendum and he?
It's a counter offer until you get an executed agreement.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you go 6, 7 counters deep, there's a communication problem, right? Because I've seen them go down to like $250 in a counter, over the price. That's a communication problem. I should have communicated better with Todd to hopefully come to some understanding by by knowing what's going on from his client to my client. But the whole point is, these are all counters and they're numbered. You can't have 3 counter ones, right? That's impossible.
Well, your client didn't respond to my counter number one, so I wrote another counter, and since your client didn't respond, it's still counter one.
But think about this, that counter one that we created was put out and had an expiration, right? Okay, so that counter expired.
But it was also signed by somebody. It was signed by one of the parties.
It was, but just, let me get to that point, right?
Sorry.
I sign it and I send it out and it now expires, it never happened, right? Because it never got addressed, it never got signed, it never got executed. So then the question comes, you can't give me another counter one because I'm the only one that could do a counter to your offer. So what do you do in that instance?
Well, at that point, you gotta rewrite an offer, because if
Should.
a counter offer
Should.
expires, it's dead.
Now in a situation like we've seen highest and best, I haven't gotten to a counter yet, right? There's no counter from you because you said we're gonna take highest and best. That's the only instance where I could write an addendum to my offer, making it better. So if that counter offer that we just addressed expires, that whole offer is expired. I have to address that.
So in my mind, the correct way to do that would be to rewrite your RPA with the new price in it, with a new expiration date, because now you're 2 days into this whole thing, and you're probably expired. And so why not just quickly go into transaction desk, change the price, send it over for digital signatures, and not do the addendum, because the addendum becomes somewhat confusing.
Yes, and that's actually the chain of events that's supposed to happen. But let's go to after acceptance, right?
Oh, okay.
We've gotten the offer accepted, and now we have changes. We want to change the close date, we want to change the due diligence, and so I've seen like 4 addendum ones. How can I have 4 addendum ones?
We see them without any numbers.
Oh, that's
We
good.
just add them on there.
That's good, yeah.
Just
So-
add them on there.
Yeah.
Make up an
6, 7,
order.
8.
1A, 1B, no. And so the whole point is that if the addendum isn't executed, it never existed, right? And that's the same point of what we talked about in the contract, that if I have a due diligence period that's coming up, and you as the seller never sign or execute my addendum, I'm SOL. It's like my time frame passed,
There's no change.
right? And so that's why it's forced action on that piece. And so if you don't respond to my addendum, and you're like, no, I don't like those terms, and I want to rewrite it, what should you do?
You write the word rejected on it, and you have your client sign next to rejected, not down in the signature section,
Draw a
because
big
that
line
can be
across
construed.
it.
Take addendum 1 that
Red pen two.
you don't agree with, cross it out, write rejected, have your client write rejected on it, and send that back to the other side and write addendum number 2 with the terms that you like. And if they don't like your terms, they should cross those out and send you addendum number 3. My opinion is that if an addendum has been signed by one of the parties, it exists, it's in the world, it lives, it's around. Either it got implemented because both parties agreed to it, or it got rejected, but one of those 2 things have to happen, and you can't have 2 addendum 2s just because someone didn't agree to the original addendum 2. That goes then to addendum 3.
Yeah.
And all of your files should have every addendum in there.
It should be sequential.
Whether it's rejected or not rejected.
Now, the only carve out to that is if you're
No
one of the...
carve-outs.
No, there is a carve out.
There's
You're a
not.
buyer, and you have the same addendum 1, but you sign one and you sign the other, but they exactly match. You can have conforming addendums because you're in two different places. That's allowable under the law.
But it's still the same addendum.
But it's
But
the
that's the
same
same addendum.
terms.
Yeah, that's the
same
same
terms.
addendum.
I want to clarify.
So
make sure everyone's-
an addendum can be signed by two different people at two different times in two different places.
Yes.
On two different pieces of paper.
Two different dimensions, two different plans.
And that's still legal. Yeah, that, I mean, even, yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay,
That's
cool.
not even a carve.
So we made the point that it has to be in.
So you're right.
Has to be in
countering.
order.
That's not a carve out, I said, Chris.
Any other questions on that? Any other issues
Please-
on that?
Please, don't be afraid to reject an addendum. If you don't agree to it, just reject it. It's no big deal. Everyone's always, well, they want me to reject it and send it back. They come into my office like, okay, you're a professional real estate agent, write the word rejected on it, have them sign next to it and send it back. It's your job. That's what we do. That's what we signed up
The
for.
other thing you can do is pick up the phone, call the other agent
that's
and
crazy.
say,
This is crazy.
no, listen, hey, I want to do an extension of close of escrow for both of our sake, because we've talked about it, and here's what I'm going to put in the addendum. Do you have any issues with that verbiage below? And if they come back and say, no, it all looks good, are you going to have that issue?
No.
No, it's all communication based, but for some reason, we immediately get an opposition, like two bulls going at it. There's no reason for that. Well, the agent on the other side's a real jerk. Well, maybe they haven't been loved enough as a child.
Go give them
right?
some love.
Give them a hug. All right, so we've gone through all the items that we have listed there. I was told to remind everybody that the election, of course, is coming up, the real elections, not the board elections. And Nevada Realtors, for our members, has put out a voter guide. We didn't put out a voter guide because we're Republican or Democrat. We put out a voter guide of realtor-friendly candidates. Why are they realtor-friendly? Because they buy and sell houses. That was a joke. Why are they realtor-friendly? Because they've stood up for private property rights in the defense of our industry.
They support our industry.
Yes.
So I think it's important to understand too, that we've got committees that actually interview these
Yes.
candidates, ask them the tough questions, so that you guys don't have to.
And you two are on those committees.
Right, and we do a good job.
You do a good job.
So here's my question, Chris. I have seen the little postcard mailed out by NVR with, these are the candidates that we support. I've seen it on Facebook.
Yep.
I've never received one, and anybody I've talked to has not received one.
Yeah, so you can go to nevadarealtorsupport.com, nevadarealtorsupport.com. Todd posted that on our Agents of Signature page, and it has the actual voter guide for this year. You're gonna notice that we didn't have judges listed there. We don't get into judicial races. It's only for the state elected candidates or the local elected candidates in.
So when you go there, you're gonna put your address in.
Yep.
Because some of the people that you'll be voting for will be based on where you physically live, so.
Yep.
Yeah, don't be afraid to stick your address in there, they're not gonna steal anything from you.
No, we already have it.
And they don't get into the presidential.
We don't get into presidential or federal races unless it were to be something like, if they were gonna appoint a secretary of HUD and they asked for input, which they've never done, something like that we'd get involved in. But yeah, cool. So I thought we'd end the meeting today with some stats, because everyone's been talking about the market and how hot it is, and I thought I'd give some context.
Are you not gonna talk about open houses at all?
You can do them. Have fun. Do an open house today. Don't wait.
To your staff?
There's a class tomorrow.
There's a class tomorrow in the Green Valley office.
All right, so single-family closings, 3,270 closings in September. By the way, these numbers are all for September. You can get them at the LVR single sign-on. Applied Analysis does these stats every month for the month prior. So single-family closings, 3,270, that's up 12.4% over last month. So we're up 12% in closings
Over last month.
over last month. The median price, and it's the median closing price, right? Not the median listing price or even the average listing price, which is up in the fours. If you didn't know, that's pretty incredible. The median closing price is $337,250,
So the median price has gone up
8.8% since last year.
Since last year.
during a pandemic.
8.8%.
Who would figure?
Who would have ever thought?
So like we talked about before, and you pointed it out, that if we had a market correction that was like a 6-7% correction, we'd still be above the median price from last year.
Yeah, you still make money.
So Shelley was bringing it up in her point about active listings, the active single-family homes in all of LVR's MLS database. What do you think? Is it above or below 5,000?
It's below.
Below.
Below. She's like, oh, I can see it. It's
below.
It's
Just barely below.
4,800 active listings, which is down 35% from last year.
What does that mean?
Wow.
Down.
It means that we have less listings.
It means prices went up.
Prices are going up.
Yeah. So one of
Basic,
Means
the
sell your
basic
house.
law of supply and demand, right?
Yep,
There's
that's
no
economics.
supply, demand's going up, prices are gonna continue to go up until we see a
More
flood of new homes come on the market, which we don't anticipate.
So here's the one that absorption rate is exactly your point, and we're at 1.5 months supply of inventory. That's down 45% from last year. 45%, that's amazing, because we were at 3 months supply last year. And so we've heard this from everybody. I get a listing and it sells right away. 69% of all single-family listings are selling in 30 days or less.
Wow.
69%.
Wow.
That's a market I want to be in.
And those that aren't are overpriced.
Yes, they have to be, because there's no reason that they wouldn't be sold.
Exactly.
Just 3 months from now, you'll be priced correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, just wait till the first of the year.
You brought up condos, and so remember back in 2010, 2011, we were selling condos for $34,000, and that was luxury condominiums,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know about luxury, but
And the median price of a condo back in 2010 was $38,000.
it was well under 50
Okay?
grand.
So what do you think it is right now? Don't look, Shelley.
Shelley cheats, so
Median price of condos right now, above or below 200,000?
above.
Wow, you said above, I'm shocked.
$1.
It's actually $195,500.
I know.
Can you believe how high that's gone? I mean, that's a massive
In
increase
10 years.
in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's up 14.3% from last year. So even if the condo market had a 10% correction, you'd still be 4% above last year, right? Now, how many units are available in condos?
1,500.
1,525 available. That's down 17% from last year. So their inventory is really struggling, and they have a 2.1 month supply, which is down 21%. So how long do you think condos stay on the market?
36 days.
So 62% of all condos listed are on the market less than 30 days. That's down 51%
From last year.
from last year. Those are amazing numbers, right? And that's just for September.
Yep.
So we posted that on Agents of Signature for your review so that you could share it with your clients. They put big, nice graphs so even I can understand it. And it comes out about the 7th or 8th of every month, because when Janet and I were presidents, and Brandon too, we would do all of our interviews.
Brandon in the
Coming
future.
soon.
Yeah,
Coming
so he'll do all of his interviews.
He's in the coming soon section.
That's why they all come out on the 7th of the month, is because of those stats.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you, I tried.
Yeah, that was one of the best stats presentations I've ever heard.
See? And if
So
you tune in next
so
month.
you posted that on Facebook?
I put the entire booklet, so they actually break it down by area code, like, 103, 204, whatever area code you're looking at.
So if I'm going on a listing appointment,
Yep.
I could go to applied analysis on the one single sign-in for LVR, and I could print a booklet for my client
Yep.
and help them not
It's crazy talk.
overprice their house.
Yes, there's also,
The LVR supplies
lot
tools
of
for us
stuff.
to sell houses. It's
it's like the
amazing.
dues are free. So they also supply market information reports, like if you ever wanted to know the population count for Las Vegas, if you ever wanted to know the transition of how many people got new licenses here from California, they track all of that on the economy report. And so you can literally go in and track it for Las Vegas, Nevada, and for the United States. It's really kind of cool. Go in and play around.
When I'm a numbers person, so when I go there, I literally
You won't
spend
come back?
like 4 hours. Like,
Don't go there.
It's worse than social media for me, because I'm looking at all the numbers and look up and it's 4 hours
He likes it,
later.
he likes it, he likes it.
Yeah. Swipe left, swipe right.
So that's all I got, Brandon.
Well, let's wrap it up.
Okay. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a next great week and a fantastic strong end.
See you on the weekender.
Bye.